This episode of Us and Them is supported with a grant from the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It's Trey Kay, and from West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, you're listening to Us and Them, the show that tells the stories about the things that divide Americans. Well, it's another Thanksgiving under COVID. But this time, thankfully, we're not under lockdown. Many Americans are getting together face-to-face to share a hug, stories, a meal, and maybe even some honest conversation about a few issues. I'm sharing a virtual holiday table with a few dinner guests. We started this tradition last year, and the wide-ranging group has been talking occasionally about the hot topics of the day. Maybe we can debate around the Thanksgiving table and still find common ground between servings of turkey and pumpkin pie. There certainly is a lot to talk about. Since Thanksgiving 2020, Americans elected Joe Biden for president. There have been unsuccessful election challenges and a violent riot last January at the U.S. Capitol. Vaccines are widely available to American adults, and now some children are eligible. There was the anniversary of George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis, followed by the conviction of the police officer who killed him. More recently, after thinking we were through the worst of the pandemic, came the rise of the COVID-19 Delta variant. Americans remain as divided as ever on race, public health, and politics.
Okay.
We had hoped to have a Thanksgiving-style dinner in person, but as the news of the COVID Delta variant worsened, our dinner party crew agreed it was safest to meet like we did the first time, on Zoom. Jay, where is your computer? Can you get it a little closer? Is there any way you can pull it a little closer?
Okay.
There he is. There he is. I greeted my guests as they appeared in their video squares.
Okay.
Hey, Karen. And Felicia's showing up here.
Hey.
There's Felicia. So 1, 2.
This is Ann.
Hey, Ann, okay, I see you.
I'm here somewhere.
Are you going to turn your camera on?
Well, you know what? It's on. I don't know what's going on. This is my fourth Zoom today, and it has worked perfectly. So I don't know what it's doing now.
And Joe, are you with us? You're muted.
Yeah, I'm just eating a lot of food to get rid of my anxiety. So, and I'll put on my video in a bit.
Okay, all right. I don't want you to have anxiety, Joe Solomon. Okay, so I'm just double checking here. I think we're missing. Okay, so Felicia, there are 3 political conservatives and 3 progressive West Virginians. We had some changes to the group because a few people couldn't make it. Each of us has a holiday meal to share, virtually, of course. Mine is a mostly traditional Thanksgiving dinner. As you can see, it's actually chicken, not turkey tonight, with mashed potatoes, and there's like this beautiful medley of vegetables. I show off the meal my mom made for me. There's like carrots and Brussels sprouts and summer squash and all kinds of stuff like that. And there's a little bit of stuffing. And then she has pumpkin pie over there, and she made this nice little candle, which you can kind of see in the background. And I even have like a little glass of wine. Jay has already showed me what he has, which actually looks great. But Jay, could you let everybody know what you got going on over there?
Well, I'm having ham with a mustard dressing on top of it. I'm having corn pudding, sweet potatoes, salad, and then some marinated whole kernel corn and carrots, and a piece of pumpkin pie also, and a glass of milk.
That's Jay Gould. He's a retiree from rural West Virginia. Next, you'll hear from business owner Felicia Bush.
I have turkey, some corn, stuffing, some mashed potatoes and gravy, and pumpkin pie.
Ooh.
That does sound good. Okay, we got three pumpkin pies so far. Okay, Karen.
So I'm still at work, and it's been a really, really busy week.
Karen Cross is a longtime West Virginian who lives in Washington, D.C.
This is my cup with black beans in it. I found a can of black beans, so that, and dessert. Boom.
Wait, what is that? What is that?
It's a Nature's Bakery fig bar, blueberry. It's supposed to be healthy, but it's 200 calories, so I don't know how. It's a lot of sugar. Yeah, it's not as exciting as everybody else's. Sorry.
Joe Solomon, are you going to let us see what you're working on there? Oh, my goodness.
I've ordered Domino's,
Dinner party regular Joe Solomon is from Charleston, West Virginia.
And you can get so much carbs to really put yourself at ease before one of these calls with Trey Kay. I got the bread bowl and a full medium pizza with the honey barbecue sauce. And they threw in the free chocolate lava cakes, which is like a new promotion. And I'm pretty pumped. That's also a carb.
All right. And there's Terry. Hi, Terry.
I have something special. Before we start, I need to show you guys something.
Okay.
Just something small.
All right. Show us right now.
Oh,
Yes, that.
Can you
fantastic.
see it?
Oh, look at that.
That's a thank you for the beautiful flowers that everyone sent.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Since our last get-together, Terry Triplett DeLauder has lost her husband of 26 years. He had a lot of health concerns and was in and out of the hospital over the past year. When the dinner party regulars found out about Terry's loss, they sent her a bouquet of flowers. So she has a cake with a special message.
It says thank you. I'm getting ready to cut some in a minute.
I want Terry to figure out a way to cut that cake and send it out through Zoom.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
I bet I'll gain weight watching her eat it.
No.
One of the voices you just heard is our newest dinner party member, Ann Cavalier. She's mayor of Smithers, a small West Virginia town.
Welcome to Smithers, if only virtually, everyone. If you haven't been here, get here as soon as you can. Come by and say hi to the mayor, because I'd love to meet you in person. My friends know that I enjoy a little wine and cheese and crackers. I always put ice in it, and my cheese and crackers are always Cheetos. So I'm having wine and cheese and crackers.
We were all really looking forward to getting together in person this time, but everyone's health was more important. To be honest, I kind of thought this would be over by now.
Just kind of had hoped we would be past this, past COVID, and especially once the vaccines came out.
Felicia Bush is an African-American business owner and calls herself liberal on social issues.
It's just disappointing to be where we are and losing people every day. I have staff members who are losing family members. And I also am in a position where my board has said that everyone must be vaxxed because we're a Medicaid provider.
Felicia operates mental health clinics across West Virginia. Her business falls under the federal vaccine requirement. When we taped this episode, she was bracing to fire employees who chose not to get vaccinated. She later said all of her employees got vaccinated and nobody lost their job. Still, the specter of job loss due to vaccine mandates looms large across the country. The federal government, military, healthcare industry, and private businesses are weighing such requirements or have already implemented mandates. Felicia is one of many business owners weathering the pandemic with tough choices to make.
It's that juxtaposition about the greater good and then what feels important to us. And I think that's what everybody struggles with when they're trying to make these decisions, what feels good and safe with us and against everybody else.
My concern is edging into disappointment, moving towards anger.
Mayor Ann Cavalier is a Democrat. Her husband is severely immune compromised.
A year ago, I had these same concerns about his health. The wrong sneeze, the wrong associations, and I could lose my friend of 58 years. So I have those same concerns this year. We know what the issues are health-wise. We know what we can do to protect ourselves and one another. But too many have chosen not to look at this as a health issue, but to look at it as a broader social issue, maybe even a political issue. And I'm watching while I'm losing friends, I'm losing relatives. We lost 2 people in our church this past week who absolutely refused to be vaccinated. And I'm very concerned, and it takes me from concern to disappointment to that edge right now of something more deeply felt. Because I see in the paper people in the hospital are unvaccinated, and 98% of the people in ICU are unvaccinated. And I wonder, at what point are we going to care enough, as we did with polio, as we did with smallpox, as we did with chickenpox, as we did with diphtheria, as we did with other viruses? When are we going to care enough about the health and take it out of this broader social arena and put it back into healthcare where it belongs?
I know it's frustrating, and I think that everybody points to the unvaccinated. I don't know that. I mean, right now we know that the vaccinated can still get it. It's not as detrimental, but they can still get it.
Terry Triplett DeLauder identifies as a conservative.
I do believe firmly that it is a choice. I don't know that. Don't think that the government should be able to mandate your own health. The Democrats certainly go for it for abortion. They want abortions, and that's freedom of choice to them. So I don't know why they push back so much on the vaccine. No, that's just a political take, and that's just my take on it.
Well, I'm unvaccinated, have no intentions of getting it, and I'm not trying to make a political statement whatsoever. I just choose not to.
Here's conservative Jay Gould, a mostly retired engineer and business owner.
I consider myself to be in reasonably good health. If you're in reasonably good health, your chances of having a bad effect from it is almost nil.
Jay, why don't you want to get vaccinated?
My oldest daughter is a nurse. My youngest daughter has a degree in biology with emphasis in microbiology. And she studied a lot of this. And this is not your conventional vaccine. They've developed an RNA that will go in and reconstruct the cell function. And for some reason, they're really pushing this harder than anything I've ever seen. And that just makes me leery.
Well, Jay and I are buddies, and we sit on a council together, and I have a great deal of respect for what Jay is doing for his business, for his community, and what he does for his family. So I'm glad we can have this kind of conversation here.
Here's Smithers Mayor Ann Cavalier.
But Jay, I'm curious, are you not concerned that if you aren't badly impacted because you're relatively healthy, that you might be a carrier and someone that you carry it to might not have that kind of robust health?
It's this particular vaccine. It was developed so fast that people don't trust the FDA. The FDA, CDC.
And I guess that goes back to my saying, we all look at things from where we sit. I say hallelujah that modern science has come forward so fast that what took years to get a polio vaccine took 18 months to get this vaccine. And so I guess it's a matter of perspective, but I cheer it.
And Ann, in your situation, it's wonderful. And in your husband, I advise my son to have it. He has chronic asthma and he has some diabetes problems. And he asked me, Dad, what do you think? I said, I think you're the perfect person. I think it's, you definitely should. I don't have a problem with vaccine, and people who are more at risk, I definitely think they should take it. But someone who is healthy, 20, 30 years old, and military, are ready to go, I think it's horrible that they are mandating that you have it. And same way with business, people who are healthy. I think it's horrible that they're mandating it.
Why horrible, Jay?
I'm not comfortable with it. I reckon, Trey, you could say, I don't really trust government. I don't believe everything they tell us. I think they withhold information. Give us all the information and make it available, and let us weigh the odds and make our decision.
Catching my eye is political progressive Joe Solomon. He's mentioned that eating carbs helps him during stressful times. I ask him if he's getting enough of those.
It's not just carbs, Trey. It's lava cake. It's very dense, intense carbs. I'm really concerned about the virus, too. It keeps me up at night, perhaps like everyone else on this call, but it's a different virus. It's HIV. Where we live in Charleston, we're the capital of the most concerning HIV outbreak in the whole country, according to the CDC. Mm-hmm. But everything I hear about that virus is silence. It's a thick, deafening blanket of silence and stigma. Well, this past year, those numbers have just gone up and up and up. What I didn't expect was for the city of Charleston to criminalize syringe programs. The kind of syringe programs that can get us through this raging epidemic, but they did. So that's been on my mind a good deal. Jay's not vaccinated, right? But if someone handed him a vaccine, he wouldn't be put in jail. Jay has options. But if I give a sterile syringe to someone who uses drugs to help prevent the transmission of HIV, I could get arrested in the capital city of West Virginia, here in Charleston. That's nuts.
I agree with them. I think that's insane. Anyone should be able to give anyone a needle to prevent. That shouldn't be illegal.
Terry Triplett DeLauder, a conservative friend I met in the first grade, finds common cause with Joe, at least momentarily.
The HIV is very concerning, that those numbers going up here. And interestingly enough, the same doctor who is so noted, Dr. Fauci, is the one that did all the research on the HIV, and that's where he's hailed from. And they never come up with a vaccine for it quite yet.
It's not just vaccinations that get time around our dinner table. Masks continue to be a political flashpoint that divides Americans. The issue shows up at school district meetings, during election campaigns, and at work. Masks even caused friction in Felicia Bush's mental health clinics, a setting where masks are required.
I had to go down and remove belligerent parents from my waiting room, or not just parents, patients, because they weren't going to put on a mask. I have an obligation to keep people safe. And frankly, I think these are the same people who, if they were to become infected and could trace it back to my office, they would be the ones filing suit against me. So it's been really frustrating for me, and it's frustrating seeing the divide. It's frustrating for me, and it is incongruent to me when I hear so much about our right to life, our right, all of these rights, but we don't have the right to infringe upon the health of other people.
Felicia is grappling with a balance of individual rights versus the public good. She says a recent job applicant who was unvaccinated wanted a religious exemption from the clinic's mask requirement.
And they went through all of this doctrine about their rights and their body as a temple and all of this stuff. And in none of that was there any concern for your fellow man. It's just ridiculous. It's almost as if instead of putting a mask on and concealing something about ourselves, it's revealing too much.
What do you mean about that? What is revealed?
For a social justice agency, it was just incongruent to me that people decide that the health and welfare of the people that we serve, of our coworkers, etc., was not worth the inconvenience of a mask. So what it revealed about those people to me was upsetting. It was disturbing. Everyone's entitled to their own politics, their own beliefs, and doing what's best for themselves and their family. To me, the point where my beliefs, where I don't just get to exercise my beliefs, is when they compromise someone else.
I want to get Karen's thoughts here because we haven't heard from her in a while. So Karen, thoughts?
Okay, so lots of thoughts.
Karen Cross is a conservative. She's built a career fighting against legal abortion. She works for National Right to Life.
We do live in a country that has a lot of freedom. And in my daily interactions, I'm very respectful of, for instance, if I'm not well, I'm not going to work because I don't want to put other people at risk. And I did get tested for COVID a couple of times because I just wasn't sure, because I don't want to inadvertently hurt someone that I love or that I don't love, but I think part of it is giving permission and respecting and understanding that people have to make decisions based on their needs. I try to be respectful. For instance, if social distancing to people, I probably will have my mask on, even though I've been vaccinated. People are now having to choose between what they feel very strongly about, not getting a vaccine, versus having a livelihood, having a job. That's pretty drastic.
I agree that people have rights.
Here's Felicia Bush again.
I believe as an employer, I have a right to run my business how I choose to run my business. However, I've taken every step I could take. We have an information session. We do the testing. We follow the guidelines, and we were ahead of the curve going back to masking because we were getting sick. We were getting sick. If my therapist is out sick because she's had a COVID exposure from one of her clients, and so she's out on quarantine for 14 days, that's 14 days of not just revenue that we're not getting in, clients that aren't being seen at a time when people are desperate. Their mental health is in desperate condition. So economically, it's irresponsible of me not to take the precautions that I need to take to protect my staff, the clients, and in that way, the public good.
I mentioned that I've been self-conscious lately about wearing a mask. When I'm in New York, where I live part of the time, just about everyone wears one. But when I'm in West Virginia and I pop into a gas station to pay for my gas, I'm the only person wearing one. And it's so exasperating. Perceptions are constantly shifting. I mean, when I wear a mask, people see me as either an East Coast liberal or an anti-vaxxer. It's pretty complex. And I'm curious if anyone else notices this awkward phenomenon.
I'm near DC a lot. And in Northern Virginia and DC, you're going to see a lot of masks. Southern Virginia, West Virginia, not so much.
This is conservative and longtime anti-abortion activist Karen Cross.
I went into a shop recently that said, if you wear a mask, don't come in. So,
wow.
I know.
Where was that?
It was in Southern Virginia. Yeah, I took a picture of the sign. I was like, oh, I kind of caught me off guard a little bit.
Well, Karen, when you say that, I mean,
how did that feel? Yeah. I mean, how did that feel to you to be discriminated that way?
That's Felicia Bush.
Well, I mean, I didn't wear a mask. I was like, okay, I'm vaccinated. So, but
That's when you know it has nothing to do with health.
With health.
And
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with health.
That's Ann Cavalier, and here's Karen Cross again.
It was definitely attitude. And maybe they were trying to be funny. I don't know. But I feel like people should be able to wear masks, of course. But I have noticed a difference. If I'm somewhere in Southern Virginia, I'm an oddball if I have a mask on.
The danger is that we focus more on these gas station stories and not on the sort of Capitol hallway stories.
Here's Joe Solomon. He's a social worker in Charleston and a political progressive.
Here, for months, our governor has waffled. And then we expect to go into a gas station and witness a united front of a response to COVID when for months our governor has waffled on returning the mask mandate. It's an unlikely thing to happen. And so I just want to make sure that we're punching up and not punching down.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Joe, but during the mask mandate that the governor had issued, I walked into the diner in the county where I do therapy. I'm known there.
And Felicia Bush says she didn't see one mask, except for the one she was wearing. For that, she got stares. And it's happened to her son, too.
My son, Tyler, made the comment that having the mask on is the first time that when people are staring at him, he doesn't feel like it's because of his race, being judged because I'm Black, He's like, it's the first time when people are staring at me and, he gets certain looks that it's the same kind of look, but he feels like that it's more to do with the mask than his race. And he's like, it's kind of nice. I kind of like it. It's just a little less personal,
I'm not a pro or against masks, but I do worry that sometimes that masks give a false sense of security.
Here's conservative Karen Cross again.
And they're little cloth things that are supposed to protect us from this little tiny virus that can escape. If they're not being washed properly, if they're not being taken care of properly, are they really being effective?
Terry, were you wanting to get in here? I feel like I'm seeing that you were hoping to speak up there, but I can't tell.
So the only thing with the mask mandates is I do think that they overstep when it's with children.
Terry Triplett DeLauder is retired from the insurance industry. She's politically conservative.
I think that should be up to the parents. I don't believe that should be mandated by the Board of Education. The whole perception of the mask is like she said, it's more, I think people feel more comfortable with it because it actually does not do a whole lot, I don't think, in the scheme of things.
I think we would be horrified if we saw an operating room, either live or on camera, where those medical personnel around the patient didn't have on a mask. They do work. I believe fully that they work.
That was Ann Cavalier, and here's Karen Cross chiming in.
They've got clean hands that they've washed. So they're not touching their face, and they're not reusing the masks weeks in and weeks out. They change that mask probably between cases even.
Oh, well, in N95 they probably
need more education.
Jay, you wanted to get in there?
Yeah, I've read several articles on the masking.
Engineer Jay Gould is a retired business owner and has strong conservative leanings.
If you'll read the studies on this, you'll find that from what I understand, most of these viruses enter in around the eyes, and washing the hands, not rubbing the face, is more effective than wearing the surgical mask. Now, the N95, from what I can understand, it is very effective. It'll catch 80%.
Wait, hang on. Joe Solomon, you wanted to get in there?
The masks work. They are one of the best tools and most accessible tools we have to keep that virus at bay. And I'm just concerned we're going off the deep end and I'm out of lava cakes.
You're going to have some ground beef and cornbread.
I think that's why we look at a multi-pronged approach.
Here's Democrat Ann Cavalier again.
There's the mask. There's the social distancing. There is the vaccine. And I think when we do that, it's not just the mask or just this or just that or just the other thing. It is the multiplying effect or the accumulative effect of doing all of those things to try to protect ourselves and to protect others. I feel like I have a responsibility to help protect others.
Yes, absolutely.
That's conservative Jay Gould agreeing with more liberal Ann Cavalier. Coming up after a break, the Us and Them dinner party guests weigh in on election reform.
So at what point, though, I'm curious, is what point you all really thought the voting process, because there were questions about, the previous election, and I didn't hear all of this from Republicans. It wasn't until they lost that they had to question about voting integrity. Because the reality is the laws that are being passed in order to marginalize people like me.
And my guests share what they're thankful for.
I guess I'm thankful that in the impossible statistics of it all, I was born here in America, and I was born in West Virginia. I was born in a country and in a state where we equally believe in freedom and taking care of one another. Where else in the world could we have had maybe as lively a discussion as we did this evening and not be concerned about somebody listening to us and causing us harm?
That's after a break. You're listening to Us and Them. This program is supported in part by the West Virginia Humanities Council and the CRC Foundation. This episode is supported with a grant from the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation.
Music lifts us up and brings us together, even when we can't get together in person. Mountain Stage brings you live performances on the air, online, and in our podcast. They remind you how it feels to be in a live audience listening to live music. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find a link to our stations and our podcast online at mountainstage.org.
Hey, it's Trey, and this is Us and Them from PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting. The vibe of our virtual dinner party is good. There's some lively conversation, and the group is gelling. Our conversation moves away from the pandemic, vaccines, and masks to what's been happening since the 2020 election. Our last dinner party was just after the election and before the insurrection in Washington, D.C. Violent protesters and supporters of former President Trump broke into the United States Capitol. They were protesting what they called a stolen election. After a number of failed election challenges, some people still don't accept President Joe Biden's victory. Dinner party regular Jay Gould, a conservative, has made it clear he did not trust the outcome of the 2020 election. I asked Jay what he thinks about current efforts to reform the election process.
I most definitely hope they make the changes to where I have confidence in the election. These questions that come up in this last one, multitudes of questions, I just never had any confidence in it. I watched what went on in Detroit when they kept people out. I listened to the interviews in, Arizona and Michigan. People testifying of all the stuff they'd seen, and even in Georgia. I watched the videos in Georgia. That can't go on and expect me to have confidence in the election.
I agree with you 100%. Not only that is the new laws that the Biden administration's got on the table. They put the fear of everybody of voters' rights.
Terry Triplett DeLauder is referring to an election reform proposal Democratic leaders are pushing in Congress. So far, Senate Republicans are blocking it. The proposal is designed to expand voting access, security, and integrity. It sets national standards that states would follow to administer elections. It also makes it easier to vote by mail.
I wouldn't have nearly a problem if they did the one thing that most Republican states are doing, is requiring voter ID. What is so bad about that? You have to return some integrity to the voting process itself first.
This aspect of election reform is where Terry Triplett DeLauder and African-American business owner Felicia Bush dig in.
So at what point, though, I'm curious, is what point you all really thought the voting process, because there were questions about, the previous election, and I didn't hear all of this from Republicans. It wasn't until they lost that they had to question about voting integrity. Because the reality is the laws that are being passed in order to marginalize people like me.
Okay.
Like
I don't see how, see, that's what I don't understand.
You don't understand because
anybody.
Because you're not.
Anybody should have to have a voter ID.
Part of a marginalized community.
Well, why would anyone object to having a voter ID?
See, for years in my history, not in your history, but in my history, our access to the polls had been blocked. It had been blocked not just by objections, not by peaceful protests, but by beating us to a bloody pulp.
Okay, why
that's what happened to my
about the voter ID that I do not understand why there's anything wrong with that.
What plan do you and people who think like you have in order to make sure that every American has equal access to the right to vote by getting access to what you think they need to vote, which is voter ID? What's your plan?
They can absolutely, they do mail-ins. They can go door to door and have them fill out the paperwork, get copies of their IDs. I'm going to just think of all the other reasons. By gosh, they get them for if they want a driver's license, if they want to go on a plane, if they want to buy liquor, if they want to buy. People have access to get ID. So, they have to have ID for a lot less things than voter. So
you have to have the ability. You have to have the ability to get there. You have to have the proper documentation to get there. To get it, you have to mail.
You can do mail in.
You have to pay for it. Terry, you have to pay for it. I know this is something that's hard for you to
for it. I do mail in.
Because you haven't had that. There's a cost to getting your ID.
It costs to get your ID. Well, then what if they do about all the other things in life? So if they don't have so you're telling me that it's so hard that they don't have to have ID for anything else in life?
Yes.
Social worker Joe Solomon jumps in here momentarily with a passionate response. A few words are a little muffled.
It is very, very hard for the most vulnerable in our communities, for people of color, for poor people, for people pushed to the edges to have ID. In fact,
for women who experience domestic violence, while I was running a domestic violence program, the first thing I had to do with people was help them get identification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It makes that easier.
But to do that, Terry, I had to get special access to identification to be able to do that safely. I had to have grant funds to pay for that identification because it costs money.
Okay, has anyone ever brought that up? Has the cost? I have not heard about the actual cost of somebody stepping in and paying for the cost of someone to obtain ID for voters.
Well, I would challenge you to reach out to your local Republican National Party and see if they would be willing to foot that cost so that we can have an election with integrity. I would support that 100%.
Terry, you're saying that you feel you don't understand why we don't have
why having a voter ID is such a big deal.
Right. And Felicia, and I think Joe, maybe you would agree with voter ID, but your assertion is that in many ways, this is maybe a hoop for people that they would have to jump through. And you would say to Terry, don't make it so that everybody has to actually go to the State House, go to the DMV to get an ID just so they can have an ID to vote.
Yes, I'm saying that's a burden on those people. Access is a burden. Lack of access is a burden.
Well,
Any barrier that you can put up between somebody and the right to exercise their freedom as an American, then if we really care about it, and if what we don't really care about is holding on to power, then we should do all we can to overcome those barriers.
Despite the momentary heat over election reform proposals, there is some common ground at our virtual table. It feels like the more we're willing to listen to someone whose life experience is different than ours, the more we learn something new. And that helps us see each other and connect on more levels. As we finished up our non-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner, I ask everyone to share what they feel grateful for this season.
I'm Felicia Bush. I feel grateful for this science. I feel grateful that innovations keep happening, that people, for whatever reasons, I have a lot of issues with big pharma, but if you're going to get a vaccine that's going to cure people, I'm all for that. So I'm grateful for them, for minds that think completely opposite of mine and can accomplish something like that. I'm grateful for all of the innovative ways we have found to stay connected during this excruciating time in our history. And I'm thankful for the people I'm surrounded with, obviously for my family, but I have a great crew of people that are experiencing the same trauma as everyone else, and yet they help other people deal with their traumas every single day. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for this group. I'm grateful that I get to talk respectfully with people of differing points of view and life experiences.
Well, I'm Jay Gould. I can't wait until we all get together in person. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. Hopefully, as long as my back holds out, I don't have to lay down. It's halfway through.
That's Terry Triplett DeLauder. At this point during the evening, she's laying on her bed.
I had to. My back, I have to either get up, sit, walk down, lay down. For about every 20 minutes, I have to do something. I have to move. Yeah, I had to lay back down for a minute. But I'm thankful for this group, too. It has definitely opened my eyes to different issues as far as like the voter ID. I mean, I would never have thought that was such a big point in getting an ID. And I really appreciate this group. It's opened my eyes to quite a few things. Like Joe, he's right about the HIV. There's other issues. So, and I'm glad that I have my friends, too, that think like I do.
Your posse, your tribe.
Yeah.
How about you, Joe? She mentioned you.
I'm grateful for Terry's words. I'm also really grateful for the folks in the 80s and 90s who fought really hard for access to treatment for HIV and for AIDS. Groups like ACT UP and protesters who made the CDC what it is today and made it possible for the CDC to act so quickly to get us this COVID vaccine. There used to be impossible. There'd be many more years of red tape. And that was the years and years of red tape that caused so much needless death around the first real awful waves of AIDS. They couldn't move quick enough. And AIDS activists with ACT UP and other groups pushed the CDC to develop practices that cut red tape, that got trials and tested medicines with people that were willing, right? And made Fauci, who was active then, into someone with a lot more backbone. He was really pushed back in the 90s and the late 80s to be the kind of person that he is today, bolder and more courageous. And it's those folks that fought and built a movement to change our government that punched up that I'm really grateful for today.
Thanks for that, Joe. How about you, Karen?
I was just thinking about that. I'm grateful for so many things. I mean, I'm getting married in a couple months. That's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So I never dreamed that was going to ever happen, but
Karen mentions her 33-year-old son, a New Yorker. He wrote her a reflection on this year's 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. She read a bit of it to us.
20 years feels different, feels especially emotional for some reason this time around. If it's nothing more than a reminder to let the ones you love know you love them. Time is finite. Let's enjoy the time we have together. And I feel like, having that reminder of how important we all are, even though we have a lot of differences. I have differences in my own family. I mean, we couldn't talk about Trump, some of us, but we still can love each other. And it's really important to remember that we all are essentially brothers and sisters, and that we need to love each other and treat each other with respect. And in all things, I think that's really important. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that, but I'm really grateful for being reminded of that.
As you were saying that, Karen, I was looking at the lower Hollywood squares of Mayor Ann Cavalier, and there was a lot of nodding going on there. So, Ann, you're the new one to this group tonight. Why don't you close us out with things that you feel grateful for?
Well, thank you, Trey, and to all of you. I guess I'm thankful that in the impossible statistics of it all, I was born here in America, and I was born in West Virginia. I was born in a country and in a state where we equally believe in freedom and taking care of one another. Where else in the world could we have had maybe as lively a discussion as we did this evening and not be concerned about somebody listening to us and causing us harm? So I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm grateful for science and for computers. They have done things for us, for my family, for all of you that simply was impossible even 20 years ago. I'm really grateful that we could come together this evening, and I'm very happy with which way the country's going right now. Although any morning I might have some other views about any particular issue. I like the direction it's going in now.
You guys, in many ways, you're a very different, diverse group of people with a lot of different points of view. But this has been a very spirited conversation, and I just felt like it was really powerful. And there were times tonight during this conversation, like, for example, when Ann was talking about her husband, a friend of 58 years, and then Terry actually losing her husband. I got a lump in my throat, and my chest felt tight. This is kind of what I was hoping that we could have with this Us and Them dinner party, talking about issues that we feel passionately about, but that we can access each other's humanity. We can see humanity in each other. And I really felt that tonight. I've enjoyed every one of these that we've done, but this one, for some reason, has felt even more powerful to me. I'm just really grateful for you guys. I'm grateful that you guys keep showing up, and I'm hoping that you'll continue showing up as we continue doing this. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
You've been listening to Us and Them. Our team for this episode is me, Trey Kay, Marisa Helms, and Kate Smith. Special thanks to my mom, Kathy Kay, for making such a lovely non-Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner for our virtual dinner party. Michael Lipton and Tristam Lozow wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. Lelena Price provides us with images for the web. The marvelous people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the West Virginia Humanities Council, and the CRC Foundation. This episode is supported with a grant from the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation. Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the mentorship program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll see you next time on Us and Them. Wait, don't go away. Wait, please don't hang up, okay? One thing that we wanted to do this time, can you just tell me how you would like to describe yourself, and if you want to put your political leanings, it's fine too. So who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Jay Gould. I'm semi-retired and mostly retired. I have strong conservative leanings. Politically, I would consider myself a conservative Democrat, but there's no such thing anymore. I'm a grandfather of 10 wonderful grandchildren and the father of 3, and a very happily married 50-year anniversary coming up. That's me.
Oh, okay. I'm Felicia Bush. I would be considered a liberal when it comes to social justice issues and a fiscal moderate. I am a mother. I am a business founder and owner. I'm a therapist, and I try to be a good citizen.
I'm Karen Cross. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I would consider myself conservative, fiscally conservative for sure, socially moderate with a pro-life perspective. For instance, I believe that women and girls can be successful even if they have children. So many times we hear that if you give birth, you're going to ruin your life. Well, I believe in women and girls and that they can do it.
I am Ann Cavalier. I'm a serial retiree. I have retired 3 times and then ended up being elected mayor of Smithers. Married for 52 years and dated for 6, so 58 years with my best friend. I have a son and a wonderful daughter-in-law, and I really define myself politically as a social moderate and a fiscal conservative.
Yes, my name's Terry Triplett DeLauder. I'm retired. Had a very full career in the insurance industry. I'm definitely a conservative. I believe that my children need to be educated a little better, or have been. I think both of them were definitely more on the liberal side and now have begun to look more on the conservative side now that they've seen both sides under Trump and now under Biden. And I've been blessed with both 2 boys. That's who I am.
My name is Joe Solomon. I'm a bookseller and I'm a social worker based here in Charleston, West Virginia. I also have a really, really cute dog. Her name is Cicada, not cicada, Cicada, and her full name is the Queen Supreme Cicada, the Comet, Flying Kisses Jones. For short, Queen Jones, a little bit sometimes. That's her. You just heard her. That's her.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
From